And they're coming into your classroom and it's challenging you, and it keeps you questioning yourself sometimes, why am I doing what I do? And some of you may even have parents and family members that say, you must be out of your mind. I wouldn't go into a classroom like that today with kids like that today. I couldn't be a teacher if you drugged me in there and told me I would get $1 million. Some people look at you that way. But because you're passionate for learning, you're caring for young people, and you're now understanding that you're in the business of saving lives, that's why you do what you do. That's why you do what you do. And that's why the next thing, as it says in the process, is you have to know that attitude is everything. Attitude is everything. Because this is how serious it is too. Sometimes that student, no matter how troublesome they may be in your classroom, sometimes that student looks forward to coming to school to see you, regardless how troublesome they may be. But they look forward to it. Because I know as teachers, you all know and understand that sometimes you can work with the student because the student can have behavior problems, but you know this kid has potential. And they come back and you work with them and you get them acting right by Thursday, Friday, they're doing well, they go home over the weekend, but Monday when they come back, you're like, what happened? We worked on all of those behavior things, but it's because of the fact that, you know, when they go back home sometimes, they don't have the positive role models. They don't have the people who are going to continue what you're working on, but they still care and they still want and they still need you. But when the students come in and let's just say you're a teacher who in a sense, you know, you're fed up. You've had enough. And you decide to scold the kid, or like sometimes I explain to educators, sometimes the kid gets kicked all weekend long. And they come to school on Monday. And the last thing they need again is to be kicked one more time. So that's why you have to see the value in what it is you do. Because a lot of our kids, they need us. And I often share a story. When I was in elementary school, I was that student who was in the class, and I was an overachiever, so I excelled, but you had to wait for the rest of the class to get their job done. So mischief would often set in with me. I mean, I would give a teacher a run for their money, because if I had to sit there and wait, I mean, what do you want me to do? And I would cut up and I would end up in the principal's office, and my mother at that time, my mother would give the principal permission. Look, if he's cutting up or whatever, you can, you know, what they call a corporal punishment. I know it's not allowed or whatever, but she told her, you can hit him with a ruler, you can do whatever, because my mother worked 2 and 3 jobs. And she's like, I don't have time to be leaving a job to come deal with you. And so it went that way until the 3rd grade. 3rd grade, I walked into Mrs. Bobby Loman's class. And Mrs. Bobby Loman, she was that teacher in elementary school that sat me down. And up until this point, any other teacher went up against me. I mean, I'm like, come on now. You know, I'm not going to cry or anything like that. But she sat me down one day after school and she talked to me. And she's like, I know your mother. She's been to parent-teachers days. You know, and I had a brother who was 1 year older than I, and then my sister who is 2 years older than I. So they had gone through Mrs. Loman's class too. So Mrs. Loman, she knew my family and she knew us. And she sat down and she said, you know, you have so much potential, but you don't see it. You rather act the class clown. You rather cut up. You rather cause your mother stress and have her come up here for no reason at all, because you excel in the classroom. You know, I would participate in the spelling bee and represent my school on the city level and the state level. I would compete in oratory contests. I mean, I couldn't wait for the Thanksgiving Day program that we would have, or the Christmas program, because she could always count on me. But she sat me there and she talked to me, and within 5 minutes, tears were just coming down my face. And I couldn't believe this teacher made me cry. You know, she really made me think about what I was doing with my life. So I went on to middle school, and I did so well at the elementary school level with the state test and all that I went on to I didn't go to the junior high school in my community. I went to the academic junior high school that was in Baltimore. And then the middle school. Then I went on to high school. And again, academic-wise, I ended up at Polytechnic Institute in Baltimore, which is a college preparatory school. And I remember I was in the 10th grade at this time, and we were going to the next class. And when I got to the next class, the teacher got a phone call on the phone, and they asked for me to come down to the office. Now, I came down to the office. Now, I'm thinking I'm in trouble again. You know, what did I do? And they said, no, it's a taxi cab waiting outside for you, and you're going to go back to your you're going to go back to your elementary school. So I'm like, a taxi cab going back to my elementary school. Well, on this day, Mrs. Bobby Loman was retiring. And she had contacted my mother, and she personally requested that I be there at her retirement. Now, I'm I'm in the 10th grade, and I'm wondering, okay, well, why does she want me there? So I get in this cab, and the cab drives, and when the cab gets to the elementary school, one of the assistants in the front office walks out, pays for the cab. And then I come in, I'm like, okay, where do I sit in the auditorium? And they're like, no, you're sitting up there. So I'm up on stage. So I'm like, what does she want with me here at her retirement? So then they come over and they say, well, you're number 3 on the program. I said, number 3 on the program? What am I to say? So I got up, and I did. I got up. I said, it was very short, trust me. But I did share how she had touched me and how she had inspired me in the 3rd grade. And I often know, and I hear stories a lot, how people who go on in life and they do well in life, or they change their life for the better, oftentimes they can link it back to a teacher. They can link it back to someone who cared for them and someone who showed that potential or saw that potential in them, and they made it known. But, when you look at attitude and you look at how, when I encountered Mrs. Loman, her attitude for me was not to allow me to quit on me, nor was she going to quit on me.